Hi, I'm David Harry, and in this video I'm going to be doing some preliminary microphone testing with the RodeLink wireless system. Okay, so what it is, this video is primarily a preliminary test for myself. What it is, before I go about doing any videos for YouTube, I tend to test out the idea beforehand. And what it is, these tests are just for myself. They never normally go up on YouTube, although sometimes, like as in with this one, I do put them up because sometimes there are actually some quite cool results during my prelims. So basically what I've done today, I've gone out with a RodeLink system and I've tested a number of different Lavalier microphones and also a few handheld variations. In amongst that, there's the Primo EM 172, the Primo EM 184. I've also used a Mugig Lav. I've used a cheap £8 Chinese Lav. On the handheld side, I've used a Rode VideoMicro inside a mic body, which is one of these little configurations that I do, which turns the micro into a reporter style microphone. I've also used, the Sennheiser ME64 and a couple of other things in there. Now, if you check the descriptions below, there'll be a list of the mics that I've used, and also there'll be timings in there, and hopefully there'll be direct links to the sections of the video where I'm actually using each of the microphones, because this is quite a long video. It's probably really boring as well, because it's really just me yammering on in front of the in front of the camera doing my initial testing. But like I say, the results might be interesting for anybody who's either interested in the RodeLink system and wants to know if they'll work beyond just the microphone that comes with it, which it does, and it's brilliant. And also, there might be microphones in there that people are interested in as well, and they basically want to hear how their mics respond with the RodeLink system. Okay, so I'm not going to hang around too much on this. The important thing to do as well, as in with a lot of the tests that I do, should wear headphones or listen on really good speakers, because obviously this is to determine sound quality of what I'm doing. And like I said, also have a look in the links below, because there'll be direct links to each part of the test. So what I'll do, I'll kick straight into the test scenario now, then I'll come back just for a real quick summary at the end. Okay, so this is going to be a preliminary test with a few different lavaliers and one of my Sennheisers, and that's going to be the Sennheiser K6 with the ME64 cardioid capsule on it. And what it is, I'm going to be using the RodeLink system. Now, the reason why I'm doing this is because I've got a few different kind of microphone options that I can use on this system, or potentially use, which is why I'm doing this prelim now. It's just to quickly see which ones I can use and what I can get away with as far as its sensitivity is concerned between between the transmitter and the microphones that I've got, because it doesn't quite have a fully variable gain stage. It's in 3 stages, and also the receiver's got similar as well, with padding as well. So what I'm going to do is just see which ones kind of best suit this system. So right now what it is, I'm on the Primo EM 172. So basically what this is, in fact I'll just do a little walk thing as I'm talking as well. So what it is, this particular microphone is it's the Primo EM 172 Omni Electret Capsule, and what I've done, I've put it inside a really cheap £1 lavalier body. So basically I pay £1 for a lavalier microphone that sounds terrible, and then replace its capsule with the Primo EM 172. Okay, so this should give me a really good idea as to how this Primo sounds, and in all honesty, this is actually the main reason why I've got this system, is because I want to see if the 172 works with it and how well it works with it if it does. Because so far, out of all the microphones that I've got, and in fact most of the microphones I've ever tried, the Primo EM 172 is just ridiculous. It is by far the best Omni Electret that you can buy without paying silly money. I mean, I've even used some really expensive stuff, I think there was a Shopes one I've tried, and a Sanken and stuff like that. And to be honest, unless you were sitting there in critical kind of listening scenarios and using test equipment, chances are you probably wouldn't even notice the difference anyway. But as far as just listening to a microphone and going, that sounds great, this is one of them. Okay, so this was the Primo EM 172. So I'll move over now onto another lavalier that I've got. Okay, so I've moved over now to another kind of like modified lavalier, and this time this one is using the Primo EM 184 capsule. Now this particular capsule, this is a cardioid and not an omni like the 172 is. Now on first listen, you know, you might sit there and go, oh, the 172 sounds a lot better, and quite possibly, you know, all things being equal, it probably does. In fact, it definitely does. But the 184, with it being a cardioid, this is definitely going to work in scenarios where a 172 might start picking up too much surroundings. I'll do a bit of walking as I'm talking. Now the thing is, with the 172, it's a fantastic mic, and it just picks up the body of like the sound really well, you know, off your voice and whatnot. But also it'll pick up everything around it with it being an omni. Now in situations like this where I'm outside, in that previous take on the 172, I think, well, hopefully it's going to sound great, or at least hopefully the transmission system is going to complement the microphone, because the microphone capture itself is amazing. Now on first listen, like I'm saying, the 184, which I'm on now, the cardioid, this might sound like you might go, oh, that's not quite as good. But there could be scenarios where, say, you're indoors or you're just in louder environments where there's a lot of other noises going on. And whereas them noises would also swamp a recording, where along with the intended dialogue you're trying to record, if it's on a 172, a 184, with it having a limited directional pattern, will actually pick up the voice in front of it better. And let me just check something here. I'm not going to do this with any of the other mics, but what I'm going to do, I'm pointing that away from me now, so that should have dropped off. Now when I turn it round, I should sound louder, so I'll just count as I move it away. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so as I was counting there and turning the mic, it should have been dropping off, and then like I'm putting it back at myself, that should be back loud again. Let me just put that back on. So like I say, the 184 is going to be really useful for instances where you've got a lot of kind of ambient sound that you don't need. That could be dialogue off other people in a crowded room, or it could even be outside. You might be somewhere where there's a lot of noises going on, and the 172 is going to pick it all up, but the 184 will pick mostly the dialogue up. So okay, so that's just a bit of a long-winded brief over the differences between a 184 and a 172, and that's not why I'm doing this preliminary video. Okay, so that's this mic done with. So what I'll do now, I'll flip over onto another lavalier. Okay, so what I've done now, I've flipped over onto a Mugig lavalier. I think this is the M3 or the M5. Regardless, it's one that I've actually done a video about. It's a dead cheap lav, and it actually was quite good. It was mega cheap, and it comes with a bunch of different things and stuff, like extra cabling to go TRRS to TRS, which in fact is what I've just had to do. So I've had to put its cable on to go TRS into the transmitter block. Now the reason why I'm trying this is just because it's another cheap mic, and I just want to, you know, for my own purposes or my own curiosity, see what this sounds like. Now a couple of things, it's a bit windy, and all of these mics, you know, all the lavs have only got foam filters on, so the chances are, as I kind of point in and out of the breeze with any of them, they may be picking stuff up, but that's just unavoidable because right now I don't have any dead cats for the lavs out with me. Now the other thing as well, on the transmitter, you've got an option of, let's see, hold on, you've got 0, +10 and +20 as far as the gain structure is concerned. Now with the first two microphones, the two Primos, I left them at 0, and that's because the 172 is definitely a sensitive microphone or a sensitive capsule, and the 184, although it's not as sensitive, I didn't flip its gain higher on the transmitter. You can also drop a pad in at the other end on the receiver if the received signal is a bit too loud, but to be honest, if it's clipped going into the transmitter, it will clip regardless of the amount of padding that you put on the receiver, or even if you try to drop gain in the recorder or the camcorder. So what I'm going to do is, in post, I'm going to level them all out a little bit. In fact, I'll walk as I'm talking. In post, what I'm going to do, I'm going to level them all out a bit, just so that, you know, none of them jump too high and stuff. I'll also be doing like a silent sensitivity and count test at the end of this particular test as well. But it's important just to note that I've not optimized these per se at the moment, and by that there's only 3 settings that can be used anyway. But what I'm going to do is just use this, like I say, this is my preliminary test of all of these mics, and then what happens is once I've had a listen, and if I think any of them sound decent on this system, I'll do an individual video about each one on the RodeLink, just to give us an idea as to like what each of them will sound like when fully optimized, maybe with dead cats on or anything or whatever, you know. And sometimes you don't even have to have the foam filter on if there's no wind at all and you're not close enough for plosives. You can get rid of that as well, so you can take out all the obstructions in the path of the capsule. So basically what I'm going to do is, like I say, this is just the prelim for these things. I'll rebalance in post wherever possible, and then any of the microphones that stand out as working well, I will do an individual test with each one of them. So right now this was the Mugig, and this was on +10 to go in because it just isn't as sensitive as the other microphones. Okay, so I'll flip over to another mic now. Okay, so what I'm on now is another kind of cheap generic Chinese Lavalier. Now this one, I got this about 3 years ago, and to be honest, this was actually the microphone that kind of really got me on the track of like you know, testing out these cheap Chinese Lavs, because this was the first one that I got where I was absolutely blown away by its sound. Now when I first bought this one, it was £8, but it come with a little kind of battery pack as well. So it was like a little battery pack and the Lav. Now the Lav's on an amazingly long cable. I mean, the argument is with this particular one, you probably wouldn't need a radio transmitter. You could probably run this cable for about a mile. But nonetheless, I'm testing it anyway as a radio system, because like I just said before, this is the first mic that I bought, or very first proper cheap Lav, where I realized that some of these Chinese Lavs, these generic ones, are absolutely fantastic for the money. And indeed, some of them, they're not just fantastic for the money, they're just great microphones. And as far as I'm concerned, this one is still one of them. Although what I usually do, because it's got an exceptionally long cable, I do run it long if I need to take, like, you know, distance kind of recordings with a Lav. Now that's another reason why I'm looking into the RodeLink, is because, again, sorry, I'll walk on as I'm talking. What I'm going to do with the RodeLink, this is so that I can obviously go untethered. And there's a number of benefits to that as well, you know, because the amount of times I've nearly lost my camera by, you know, pulling a cable and like nearly taking the camera and the tripod with the mic. So what I'm going to do, yeah, is just try a bunch of different things. And on that point as well of, you know, being untethered, what I'm going to also do shortly is try one of my Sennheisers. And also I've got another couple of handheld options actually that I'm going to try with this, because although this is not the XLR pack, this is the, you know, the 3.5mm pack for, like, you know, lavaliers, it will work with other stuff, hopefully, or technically it will work with other stuff. Anyway, yeah, so this was just one of these cheap Chinese microphones. Unfortunately, the problem with this one, like a lot of the Chinese ones, because they don't have a permanent name attached to them, it's really difficult to kind of track them down and advise people to get them. And unfortunately, I didn't bring out my £1 Lav. I forgot to bring that out, and that's an amazing Lav for £1. And no doubt that if these are working well, then the £1 Lav would also work well on this system. But again, the problem with the £1 Lav that I've got, it doesn't have a brand name to it. So unfortunately, you know, you can do a kind of link to where you bought it from, but that might have gone in like 2 months' time, you know, on eBay or Amazon, you know, because these things just fly in and out, and different people sell them under different names, like this particular Lav actually. So it's really difficult sometimes with some of these really good Chinese Lavs as to, like, you know, where to tell people to buy them from, unfortunately. Okay, so like I say, this was my very first cheap Chinese Lav, which I'm dead happy with. So what I'll do now, I'll flip over to another microphone. Okay, so this is going to be the last of the lavaliers that I'm testing, because I'm going to test a couple of other mics in a second. And what this one is, it's actually the Lav element of the Fifine K053 USB microphone system. And what it is, I'm doing another video about that particular mic, because what it is, essentially, it's a USB mic, but what I've done a modification on it, where what I've done, I've took the USB element, I don't know if we can see that, I took the USB element of it, put a female 3.5mm jack on it. So effectively you can use that as a sound card or a microphone input for other microphones, especially lavaliers, because it does send an electric voltage. So that will actually work independently now of the microphone. And then what I've done, I've took the microphone and I've put a 3.5mm jack on the end of it, as we can see there. So then I can basically stick it into a camcorder, or in this instance, put it into the transmitter. So what I've done, like I said, I've basically just split up the K053 into two separate things here. And like I say, this I am in the process of doing a video on how to do this modification. I'm not entirely sure how it's going to sound on the Lav. It's fair to say it's not the best microphone system in the world, but you know, it may work. And you know, you could also argue and say, well, you know, you're not going to butcher up a cheap mic to use on, you know, something that's not cheap, as in this transmitter receiver by Rode, the RodeLink system. But you know, I'm just going to try it anyway because it's here, and I'll just go for a little walk around. So like I say, this is going to be the last of the lavaliers that I try. Unfortunately, there was 3 other lavaliers that I didn't bring out. I got a really good Shure one, or when I say really good one, it's an expensive one. In fact, I'm going to do a bit more of a walk test here. Yeah, I've got a Shure lavalier which I forgot to bring out, and that's like, I don't know, it's like a 200 quid lav or something like that. And realistically, I was going to bring that out just to put it up against the 172 again. I've actually done a wired test between the Shure and the 172, and the 172 came out great against that one as well. Yeah, so unfortunately I didn't bring the Shure one out with me. Now, how far away am I here? I don't know, about, I don't know, 30 meters, something like that, 30-40 meters. I've got no doubt it's still going to be picking me up. And to be honest, you know, some people go off their heads, you know, with these distance things with lavaliers, and you see people walking like half a mile away going, can you still hear me? And it's like, well, you know, who does that? You know, I'm sorry, but you know, this Rode system here as well, because I read some things about this, people bitching about it, and people who obviously have never even used it, and it's like, oh, you know, it's working on 2.4 gigahertz, it's not going to be any good, you know, you know, it won't be able to go through, you know, walls and stuff and this, that and the other. Well, I'm sorry, but you know, it does. You know, I've seen other people using them, and any wireless system is going to be obstructed by things regardless. But this system, I think it's amazing. The price of it's fantastic. Now, obviously, I still haven't heard these things back, but as long as these sound okay, there's going to be a Boss system. Now, that distance that I've just walked there, I mean, I personally wouldn't have anyone walking that far away from a camera. My particular use for this is to do like documentary style recording or interviews, in which case, you know, you're talking, how far away is your subject going to be? Do you know what I mean? Now, if you want to do some kind of stealthy recordings where someone's got to walk half a mile away and go in a building and stuff, maybe that's, you know, maybe it's not going to work for that. But for my particular use, I think this is great. Anyway, I'm yammering here. So once again, this was the Fifine K053, just its microphone on its own, not on its actual USB end, plugged straight into the Rode transmitter. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is flip over onto some handheld options. Actually, just before I do switch away from the lavaliers, last lav, I forgot it was in my bag, and this is the A.lav by Aputure. Now, the thing with the A.lav, it comes with its own power supply, which means I've got to plug it into its own power supply and then into the transmitter. Now, the reason for that is because unfortunately, although the A.lav, the actual mic element itself, has a 3.5mm jack on it with what looks like a TRS socket, unfortunately, it's not bridged or normalized or shorted poles 1 to 2. And the reason why it doesn't do that is because the A.lav power system requires a certain type of wiring at the end or on its input, which kind of falls in line with the output of the mic itself. So basically what happens is it can't be triggered by another lav going into it, unfortunately, which also means though is that because the A.lav itself on the end of its cable has got a TRS socket, it's not wired like 1.2 normalized. So basically it won't work going straight into the transmitter. So unfortunately I've had to put it with its own power block in. Now you could obviously make up a short cable for that so we can go straight in passively, but right now anyway it's on its own power supply. Usually, say for instance, if I unplugged that and plugged it straight into the camera without its own power supply, the camera would pick it up, but it would be on one side, and I think that's on the right hand side possibly. So what it is, it looks like it's wired live pole 2, but pole 1 is the trigger system for its own power supply. So unfortunately it won't work on this system passively plugged in, which is why it's all on its own power supply. I don't know if that was a bit of a needless exercise in explaining something about a microphone that people may not want to know about, but I've done it anyway. Yeah, so regardless, I'm testing out the Aputure A.lav, which is, I think that this is an amazing microphone, and for two reasons. One is that reason I've just explained there, to do with its powering system. It comes with its own power supply, and I can only surmise from that what happens is the power supply block for the A.lav probably bumps up the voltage a little bit, maybe up to about 4 to 5 volts. Maybe it does that. I've not tested that properly, but it may also be like an impedance converter or something like that. I'm not entirely sure, but the reason why the A.lav is really good is, one, I think it's a nice sounding mic. It's not necessarily the quietest mic in the world, but you get an option to use its own power supply, so you can plug it into devices that can't supply an electric or plug-in voltage, but also you can use it without that supply on devices that do, that do send that voltage. It changes ever so slightly between it using its own power supply or being passively wired, but nonetheless it was in the bag, so we've tried it on this test. And the other thing as well also about the A.lav, it's not a very expensive microphone. I think it lists at about £30, and it comes with a nice case and whatnot, a dead cat, some tape, all kinds of things, a couple of different cables for different applications. So it comes with another cable so you can plug it into a TRRS input, say a smartphone or any other device that uses a CTIA wired TRRS input. But the reason why I think it's a great microphone also is because it's not an expensive mic. It's well within the price reach of like most people, and it's got a name to it. So like I was saying earlier on about a couple of them other cheap lavs that you come across, because they don't have proper names to them and they're basically just generic, you can't really advise people on where to get them from, because you can't say, oh look, here's a mic, go and get it, this is what it's called. Whereas the A.lav it's a proper microphone, it's made by a proper manufacturer, and this microphone is what it is. So every time you buy one, you know it's an A.lav. Anyways, yeah, that's a little ramble about the A.lav, how it works and why, it's a good mic to go and buy, blah blah. But it's also a good, a good thing, a good test for me to hear how it sounds. So now I'm going to go over onto some handheld variations. Okay, so for the first of the 3 handheld variations that I'm going to try, and what this is, it's actually the Capsule from a Saramonic iRig put into just a cheap microphone body, and I've just cabled it straight in onto a 3.5mm jack. Hold on, let me just show you. So basically what I've done, I've took the Capsule from the Saramonic iRig, put it inside a cheap lav body like this, and then put a 3.5mm jack on the end. Now the reason why I'm doing that, so let me just get this, I just want to get the transmitter back on my pocket. Right, the reason why I'm doing this is because I've just done a test with the Saramonic iRig, the actual little mic itself, and I've done that between an Android phone and an iOS phone. That's a video that should be going up on YouTube shortly. Now what it is, I actually love the form factor of the iRig. It's brilliant, it's tiny, which means it can go onto a microphone, it can go onto a smartphone on a gimbal without unbalancing the gimbal, so it'll be a really good option as an external microphone. The only thing is, I think the Capsule does sound great, but the Capsule is an Omni. So what I'm going to be doing with the original iMic is to put a cardioid capsule in it. So once I find the most appropriate cardioid capsule for that, I'll be doing a video on how to modify the iMic with a decent cardioid capsule. And the reason why I particularly want to do that is because most of the instances where I would be using the iMic, I would want it to be kind of like a focus dialogue, a focus pickup pattern for dialogue, as opposed to an Omni picking everything up. That's just personal taste, and for the situations that I'm likely to use it, because I'm probably likely to use it in environments where it's going to be maybe a lot of indoor stuff with people talking, but I kind of want to focus more on the person in front of the camera, in which case that's when a cardioid is definitely a better option than an Omni. So yeah, as and when I come up with the solution for that, I'll post a how-to video on how to do it. So like I say, right now what we're listening to though is the Capsule from the iMic by Saramonic. Now when I did my initial tests with the actual original configuration of that microphone, although I tested it on a couple of smartphones, I did it on an iPhone, which is what it's supposedly designed for. Although when it says it's designed for iOS, basically the reason why Saramonic do that is because they know that all the iPhones and the pads and whatnot are wired CTIA TRRS, whereas certain Android phones are not wired that way. So they can guarantee that that mic will work on all iOS devices, which it does, but it will also work on certain Androids and whatnot. So I've already done that test, but during that test I actually did an extender cable to the microphone itself and then plugged it into my camcorder and tested it, and I thought it sounded great, which is why I took the capsule out of it and put it in a mic body. So right now this is kind of like, you know, this is a modified mic, but again it's something to test, and it's also a handheld microphone. So this is the first of the handheld mics that I'm going to be testing. Now I'll go to the second handheld mic that I'm going to be testing. And when I say the next handheld microphone, this is actually a Rode VideoMicro. Now what it is, I've kind of like made up this little mic body, which what happens is it allows me to plug in a Rode VideoMicro with some cabling inside, and then at the bottom I've got another kind of socket to then plug it out into wherever it needs to go. And right now, because it is a little bit drafty or windy and whatnot, I've actually got its own dead cat system on it. So basically what it is, this is a Rode VideoMicro being used as a handheld reporter mic, but using, hold on, a Rode transmitter. So this is kind of like, you know, a Rode on a road. You know, hold on, let me just get this back in there properly. Okay, and what it is as well, I think I've mentioned this mic in another video, although I don't think I've put it up yet on YouTube. But what I'm going to be doing is showing people how to do this modification and literally, you know, converting a Rode Micro into a reporter mic like this. I mean, look at it. It looks great. This actually costs like less than £5. In fact, it probably costs about £3 in parts. You pay more for the postage to get the parts to actually make the little mic system for it, or the little handheld body system for it. Okay, I'll just do a little bit of walking as I'm talking. Now, the thing with this one, unlike most of the Lavs, this is now a cardioid, and I think it's fair to say that although some of them Lavs that have tried, although a couple of them suggest that the cardioid, they're not. The only true cardioid out of all them Lavs that are tried there was the Primo EM 184. So what it is, this is a proper cardioid, as anyone would know who's got a Rode VideoMicro. I'll just call it micro from here on in. Anyway, I love the micro. It's an amazing microphone. It's not the best in the world. It hasn't got the best bass pickup. It hasn't, you know what I mean? It isn't the best at a lot of things, but I think that for its money, it's a fantastic microphone, and it's amazingly versatile. Now, more so if you can do this with it. So whether this is hardwired straight in, or whether it's on a radio transmitter system, as in the way I've got it right now, this just shows that the Rode Micro is a fantastic mic. And also, because it is a cardioid, it's going to be brilliant for certain things where you do need to focus dialogue. Now, it could be argued that right now out here, you know, it may not be necessary to use a cardioid, and we would have heard that as well with the Primo EM 184. Now, I've not listened to these takes obviously, but I'm going to hazard a guess that the Primo 184 may have been knocking out, say, some of the bird chatter in the park and stuff like that, and this may well be doing the same as well. So, you know, even in a relatively kind of quiet environment, you still may want to have a more focused pickup, especially if you have got like animal noises going on and such. But the reason why I think this microphone's amazing is because you can stick it on top of a camera, or you can stick it in a mic body like this, and I actually think it sounds great for its, you know, for the price you pay. And plus you get you get the lot of shock mount with it when it goes on top of the camera, and I've actually proven in another video that that isn't bogus. It actually works great, because I did one where I compared this to the Boyer MM1, and it definitely was better with its shock system and whatnot. Indeed, it's a better microphone as far as I'm concerned. Now, a lot of people might moan about this mic going, yeah, well, you know, it's a bit bright, or it isn't bassy enough and whatnot. For me personally, if I want to catch dialogue, you know, if a microphone's got a bit less response at the bottom end, it's less susceptible to rumble and other noises. So this is actually very, very well designed as a dialogue microphone, in my opinion. Anyway, so what it is, again, this is the Rode VideoMicro shoved inside this little handheld body, so I can turn it into a reporter styled microphone, and more importantly, it's on the transmitter. So yeah, there's not much else that I can say about this. So this is exactly what this handheld variation was. Now for the last microphone, which is also a handheld mic, or at least, you know, it's a boom mic, but it's a proper one designed to do that job. So I'll flip over to the next mic. Okay, so for the third handheld microphone and the last in the entire test, and it's just started raining, so I've had to take my tracky top off and put it over the camera and the receiver just to make sure that all doesn't get wet. And hopefully me ME64, which is what I'm on now with the K6 powering module, hopefully that doesn't get too wet, because I'm actually using a super softy with it as well, so hopefully that's going to keep it nice and dry and not kill it. So what I'll do, I'm going to have to try and keep this a bit shorter than what I'd probably want to. Now, in the entire test, this is realistically the only kind of like handheld, as it were, real microphone that I'm using. And what it is, this is a cardioid capsule, which is what the ME64 is. The K6 is actually the body or the power element. And then what happens with this particular range of Sennheiser microphones, you use different capsules to stick over the K6 or stick onto the K6 body. So what I'm doing here is just testing to see how well this works with this transmitter system. Now, also, Rode do another RodeLink variation which uses an XLR block, which is probably what most people would normally use with, say, a shotgun microphone or, say, a cardioid or a pencil, because although people call this a shotgun mic, the ME64 is actually only a cardioid kind of element. It's not a shotgun. The ME66 is a shotgun element for the K6 module, but in this instance, this is just the cardioid. Anyways, yeah, I'm just trying to test this out to see what it sounds like, because although you can get hold of the XLR transmitter by Rode, the reason why this will work is because the K6 is the self-powered variant. There's two variations of the K6 module as well. One requires phantom power and the other one will self-power off a little battery, which is what I've got on right now. So this is the reason why I don't need to use the XLR transmitter. I'm actually getting a little bit bothered by the rain now. I'm just hoping it doesn't start destroying anything. Yeah, but this should give me personally a really good kind of like, you know, example of how this is going to work, because if this works okay with the 64 capsule, it will work with all the capsules that go onto the K6 body. And the other thing as well, what this also would allow me to do is to put the 66 on it, the ME66 that is, which is the short shotgun, and if I put that on the end of a boom pole, then I can just fasten the receiver to the end of the boom pole outside of a basket or something or whatever, or outside of like the ladder shock mount, and be completely, like, you know, wireless or untethered with the 66. Anyway, I think this rain's actually getting worse, so I'm going to have to call this a day now. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go into some silence tests for all that I've done here, and then I'll do some count tests. Then what I'm going to do, I'm going to go for a quick pint of Guinness, then I'm going to go back home and edit it up and then, you know, put it all up online. Anyway, so for the last test, this was the Sennheiser ME64 cardioid capsule with the K6 self-powered module. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53. Okay, so as far as the summary is concerned, this isn't really going to be a full-blown in-depth summary like I would do normally on any particular video that I would do, because realistically it was just me initially going out and testing the RodeLink system. But what I will say immediately straight away is these are great. You know, I think the RodeLink system is fantastic, especially for doing the type of work that I want to do. Now, the thing is, in that test there was a few different types of microphones. Also, there was different cardioid patterns and whatnot. And I think, you know, the RodeLink handled everything really well. Now, as to whether you like a particular microphone, that's down to personal taste. But the one thing that you can't argue against is that the RodeLink system worked flawlessly with them all. Now, I didn't kind of like maximize it as much as maybe it was what I could have done as far as like gain and pads were concerned and such. And the only reason for that is because that was the very first test. I only had these like half an hour before I did the test. I literally just grabbed a bunch of mics, ran out to the park and did the test straight off bat like that, and it worked flawlessly. I didn't even look at a manual, didn't do anything. I just paired them together and just went for it. I think I altered the gain setting a couple of times just because some of them mics were a little bit like less sensitive than others. Now, what I'm going to do off the back of that, because that was such a success, I think, as far as like demonstrating how good the RodeLink system is, what I will be doing is doing a bunch of like small videos, which is just the RodeLink with one particular microphone, and I'll probably go into like a fair few of them as well. And the idea behind that is because, you know, a lot of people may not have a particular lav and they want to know whether it works with this, so you know that'll be good for that. And also I just think some of them microphones as well deserve to be like done on their own with the RodeLink. And when I get around to doing them particular tests, chances are what I'll do a hardwired version straight in and then do the comparison with the wireless on it as well. I don't think I'll A/B too much between any particular types of microphones, because with the next lot that I do, which are going to be the individual ones, it's really all about that particular mic and the RodeLinks as well. But anyway, yeah, like I say, this was like one of my own kind of things that I test for myself before I go ahead and do full-blown videos. And I just hope that maybe within the test scenario, there was points of interest there for people who may be interested either in the RodeLink, or maybe they're interested in some of the mics that I've used and maybe the combination or anything like that. Okay, so yeah, that's about it really. So what I'll do then, I'll get off, and at some point I'll start kind of like coming up with a few of them individual ones. So the last thing that remains for me to say right now is thank you very much for watching this video. Take care and goodbye now.